Again, here's the relationship of our first vertebra, which is the atlas, and here's the axis. The atlas has no body, anterior look, posterior look. Has no body, but it does have transverse processes. Okay, superior facet, and it does not have a spinous process either. Okay. Whereas going to the second vertebra, you see the superior facets on that. It's got a body, and it's got this projection we call the dens that articulates literally anterior aspect of my atlas. The dens. Now this vertebra now becomes obvious. I've seen spinous process. But one thing they all have in common is they have this transverse foramen that allows one of the major blood supplies that supplies the brain to go through from the neck into the cranium. Transverse foramen, classic of your cervical vertebra. The rest of the cervical vertebra are typical classic. Again, here's a classic one from 3 to 7. Looks like this: anterior, posterior, small body, small transverse processes. They have transverse foramen, triangular shape spinal foramen, vertebral foramen, and you can see on the spinous process kind of look like it's bifid, bifurcation, bifid. Again, classic of your cervical vertebra. Compare that with my thoracic. Now the body is bigger. Okay, my transverse process is longer, and of course, definitely the spinous process is slender, longer. And of course, the thoracic has no transverse foramen. You can also identify the thoracic by the facet for ribs on the lateral aspect of the body, as well as on the transverse process will be located the facet for ribs attachment. Compare that with the lumbar, which again have very large body. The vertebral canal for the spinal cord a little different shape than the rounded shape we've been seeing all along on the thoracic segment. This one looks more hatchet looking. Okay, shorter, broad transverse processes, definitely short, hatchet looking spinous process in the back to carry more weight. What we're looking at is the anterior, posterior aspect of the relationship between two vertebrae, in this case thoracic. The two vertebrae, they sit on top of each other, so that makes this aspect my superior facet. Okay, between them will be my cushion pad, intervertebral disc. For this guy, this will be his superior facet. For this guy, superior facet. For this guy, however, he is inferior facet. Inferior for him, superior facet. Superior facet, inferior facet. Okay? Again, that's how they sit, with the spinous processes pointing downwards. If we look at this relationship, okay, again, this is how they sit. You can see the intervertebral disc made of fibrocartilage with the obvious central pulpus or nucleus pulpus within the middle that may actually herniate. And you can see a herniated disc in this aspect. Why do people have pain? Because the central aspect of that intervertebral disc herniates, it cannot go forward, it cannot go posterior because the spinal cord is in there. The recess between the two vertebrae, where the spinal nerve comes out from the spinal cord, okay, this recess is called the intervertebral foramen, between the two vertebral foramen. That's where the spinal cord comes out. And that is the only place that herniated disc can come out at. Hence, it can catch the root of the spinal nerve and cause difficulty or pain. Okay, you can just go ahead. All right, now we are going to finish up the axial skeleton by describing the bony rib cage, which consists of the sternum, associated ribs, and the interarticulate joint, the sternum to the ribs. The sternum consists of the side forward process, the body of the sternum, and the manubrium body side forward process. Associated with the sternum, you can actually see the clavicular sternal joint or sternoclavicular joint. Okay, in between that is my jugular notch, where the jugular vein comes in towards the heart. I have 12 ribs. The first 7 are true ribs. The first 12 ribs are true ribs. Why do we call them true ribs? They are articular cartilages joined directly to the sternum. 8 to 12 are called false ribs. Either they are free floaters, don't join to no one, or they are cartilages joined to the cartilage of the ribs above them and subsequently to the sternum. True, false. For 7 true, last 8 to 12 false ribs. The clavicle. The clavicle, as you can see, is positioned such that it makes contact with the manubrium of the sternum, as well as the acromion process of the scapula. Acromion of the scapula, and where the two meet, acromion clavicular joint, acromion clavicular joint, also called AC joint, okay, on the right side. Okay, the two parts we need to identify with the clavicle are the medial part, medial end, also called the sternal end, the lateral end, also called the acromion end. One more time. Acromion end of the clavicle, also called lateral. Medial end of the clavicle, also called the sternal end.